All right, welcome to the Side Action, episode 20 of season 5. My name is Jim Weglars, aka Wegs. You can follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and on Instagram.
And I'm Steve Roberts, aka Action. You can follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
Follow the podcast at Side Action Pod on Twitter and Side Action Podcast on Instagram. So, how was the weekend, Action? I'm trying to remember what you did. Did you have a chill weekend? You've been traveling a lot.
Yeah, we took the weekend off and laid low. We did go out to dinner with some friends on Friday. That was just in the neighborhood down the street, little Pop's Italian place. And then just laid low Saturday, did some stuff around the house, watched football, basketball, pretty much all day Saturday and Sunday. It was a nice, relaxing weekend. How about yourself?
Not relaxing, as you can imagine. I got back from the trip, and then Friday night was just preparing for the big game night. And I don't think you've ever attended the game night. You're probably out of town most of the time.
Yeah, no, I was there at game night once.
Okay, good. Good. So I know the most famous time you came to a party was when you came as the duffel bag boy for the Halloween party. So I remember that. But yeah, so game night, we had like 50 people show up. It was insane. My apartment is, I think I was testing the floor joists to see if we were going to hold so many people in here, but it was really fun. A lot of energy, a lot of activity. Lots of alcohol consumed. I still have plenty left over on the bar cart, so no worries if you come over. But nice. My team did win. Team Diamonds did come through in the clutch, but we had to come from behind, as we usually do, and it was mainly the charades that one of my friends in volleyball really did really well. So great time. But we had a lot of volleyball crew. But we had Aaron Mina, obviously Primetime Murphy was here, Ridgeway was here. So we had a nice grouping, not just volleyball. There were some other people's cousins and stuff. So it was a great time. Great time, man.
Yeah, I saw the pictures. It looked like quite the crowd. So glad to hear you guys had fun.
Yeah, and then obviously it was kind of recovery cleanup on Sunday. And then Monday I actually did a presentation for work. So I thought I'd come to watch the second half of an exciting college football game it was like 35-7 at halftime or something. So, I guess besides the total, which really, if they didn't score the last touchdown, it would have hit both sides of that one. Georgia just destroyed them. They were just so much better.
Yeah, it's safe to say that the early week money was wrong. It was probably the public just pumping up or pumping down the TCU side. And I think just watching the markets on Monday at some point, the real sharp people pounced on Georgia at a little bit lower numbers, and that was obviously the correct bet.
I heard the live line. You could have kept hitting the live line because it kept going up, and it finally closed it. I think it still hit because they won by 58? Is that right? So
I think it was 66.
I think it was 53 or 54.
Yeah. 59-point final margin.
Ugh. That's just rough. But Horned Frog Nation, you got that far. Just too bad to get trounced. But
yeah. Thankfully for my one or two, I made several prop bets, but the one TCU prop bet I made was Max Duggan to score, and he scored the first touchdown. They somehow got into the end zone in the first quarter and never sniffed it the rest of the game. So I lucked out there a little bit.
There you go. Nice work. Nice work. All right, well, let's go into the NFL action. Let's go over Week 18, and then we'll dig into Wild Card Weekend. So first, in Week 18, we bounced back. We were on the right side pretty much all of our games, which is good. We'll start off with the game we didn't hit, the confounding Raiders. This Raiders team, I think we missed them 7 times this year. I don't know if we ever picked them or picked their opponent correctly all year. And I blame them and our proxy for us not winning money this year, but it's our fault ultimately. But no, Stidham came back to earth like I kind of expected. Kansas City took care of business and actually covered the number, 31-13 in this one, pretty easily.
Yeah, I would say that it's all Dave's fault. Actually, I don't blame us in the slightest.
Yeah, Dave, you remember that proxy. But the other games, we talked about the Bengals a little bit. The Bengals were 7.5-point favorites. This team has been on fire against the spread. I mean, they won 27-16 in this one. it wasn't a complete domination. It was closer than the score appears, but I think they're like 30-4 or something in their last 34 games against the spread. I mean, this team is just a juggernaut right now.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that the line move in this game by Sunday morning made it pretty evident that a lot of bettors in the market knew exactly what the Ravens were going to do. Anthony Brown started at quarterback. They didn't even try Huntley, presumably knowing that they were going to match up with the same team in the next week in the wild card round. And they just kind of went with a vanilla game plan. Although I have to be honest with you, when I saw that news, I went in and pumped in some Ravens team total under, and they moved the ball quite a bit
Yeah.
on the Bengals. I was kind of disappointed in what I saw in that Bengals defense, knowing what they were going up against in the Ravens with down a ton of starters. So bring some question marks going into the playoffs here in the real matchup.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Falcons, they were 4-point favorites in this one against the Bucs. We talked about Tom Brady playing, but he didn't play the whole game, obviously. So the game was closer in the first half, pulled the starters. Falcons ran away with it 30-17, so they cover as well. So we didn't end up picking that in the contest, but that was a good hit as well.
Yep.
Then we had the Finns. This was a weird game, weird line. The Dolphins opened as a favorite, then they closed as a dog, and then they went back to a favorite, right? I couldn't even keep track. I think in the contest they were the dog at +1, but they ended up closing as a 3-point favorite, 3.5-point favorite.
3.5, 4 in some spots. And as you know, I think it was 9-6 late in the game with the Jets, the ball in their own end, and they did some, pitching, trying to break something long, and the ball ended up in the end zone for a safety, and the Dolphins won by 5 and covered for everyone who came late to the party in late 4 with Miami.
Yeah, and it was 6-6, and then the Dolphins were driving, got kind of an interesting penalty to get them into the field goal range. So, I mean, they needed to win the game to get the playoffs, and they did. But man, that was an ugly game, and I mean, despite Flacco starting for the Jets, so we got lucky on that one, and everybody at the 3. Well, we guess we didn't. We were still the 1+1, but it's still they could have lost the game and not covered the spread on that one.
True.
The Commanders +7. Boy, this game wasn't the way I expected it. The Commanders just dominated this game. Sam Howell, your guy, North Carolina guy, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
He played really well. Dallas looked awful. I don't know what's going on. We'll talk about them in the playoffs, but they lose 26-6 outright. I don't know if this saves, Rivera's job. Apparently he hasn't been fired yet, so maybe it has. So yeah, they win, and they finished above 5. Well, I guess even. They don't finish below 500. So everybody in the NFC East finished at 500 or better.
Wow. Yeah, weird game. Another game where the Dallas defense really didn't play up to their expectations. And Sam Howell looked pretty good. It makes you kind of wonder if they had gone to him sooner instead of they probably held on to Heineke a little bit too long, and then they went to Wentz at the wrong time. But I have to wonder if Howell had been inserted at that point in the season, if it had been a different outcome for the Washington Commanders.
It's hard to say. All those young quarterbacks that have come in this year have had good early success. So maybe you're right. Maybe for a couple weeks anyway. The Broncos, another weird game. Obviously, the Chargers at that point knew where they were seated, so they didn't really have to win. But Staley played his guys, and the Broncos went from a 3-point favorite to a 6.5-point favorite. They didn't really play that great, and obviously the Chargers were trying to win the game, I guess. And in the end, there was a push, 31-28. The two takeaways I had from this is Staley's an idiot because Mike Williams gets carted off the field with a back injury. He may play. And secondly, the Broncos, where was this offense all year?
Yeah, good question. Maybe it was Nathaniel Hackett holding them back.
Yeah.
I don't know. But, I mean, you nailed it. I think every single sports talk show and podcast I've listened to this week has just been ripping Brandon Staley for playing the starters as long as he did in that game, knowing at that point after the Bengals had won that they had no chance to improve their seeding. So we'll see if it comes back to bite them this weekend, if Mike Williams is limited or perhaps doesn't suit up against the Jaguars.
Yeah, exactly. The Giants were one of our picks, +14 in the contest. It ballooned to +16.5. I thought, that was a crazy number. And really, they played pretty decent with Davis Webb and Saquon on the bench and Daniel Jones on the bench. Philly, they didn't look great. I mean, they won the game 22-16. It was kind of a later cover for this one, but really 16 and a half, dude, they never were going to cover that. I mean, 14 was just a little bit dicey when they got in the back door. So we got that one right as well, and the Philly doesn't cover this one.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird game. I think the handicap, we initially thought that the Giants starters were going to play, and then
Mm-hmm.
they did not, and they got out to a huge deficit in the first half. And got to say, though, the final score, even though it was a 6-point game, it certainly never felt like it was that close in the second half.
Right, right. Last game, Rams against the Seahawks. The Seahawks had to win to get in. The Rams are 6-point dogs. This was a tooth and nail fight. I mean, this game, Seattle was lucky to win the game. They missed they missed that field goal in regulation, which I thought was the death blow, but they ended up kind of getting a gift later to get the win at 19-16. But we obviously cover our thing, and then we won't talk about the game specifically, but Green Bay just laid an egg on Monday night. Detroit played really well in the second half of that game. I just felt that Green Bay blew the first half because they should have scored touchdowns instead of field goals. And in the end, when Green Bay loses, Seattle makes the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, what an awesome game that was on Sunday night. I was really into that, being a Detroit homer now.
Oh yeah,
That's fun.
yeah. Where's your golf jersey? You got
It's on
one?
back order.
Yeah, there's so many people buying it. So what a shock action when you look at the week. Hey, 8-8 against the spread. I mean, it's just crazy how that works. A
Yep.
split, and then the unders went 9-7. So for the season, the unders have dominated underdogs in general, but it is really evened out down the stretch, especially with the closing numbers. Um, Still about 18.5%. The spread mattered, at least for this favorite. Otherwise, it was outright red losers. So interesting trends. And then for the Circa Million, I'm sorry, America, we did not make it. We had a couple weeks back, and we've had like 2, 3 weeks down the stretch, man. We were right there.
I know.
We finished in 819th place, still good for 4,600 people at 55%. Not as good as last year, but 47, 38, and 5. Went 4-1 this week. Good way to close action. The top guy, I put this in wrong. He wasn't 58. He's six. The top guy went 61 and a half points. And I don't know if you looked at it, he was like tied for third, a good couple points behind, but he went 4-1 like us. It was a group from Detroit, as Night Range sent you the text. And so he closes at 68, 0.33%. Good for them, winning the $1 million by themselves, no split at all. And then the top 100 was at 55 as the score, 61.11%. So we were right on that 60% bogey. I think that's kind of the target to get cash. 70% will win you the money, although this year was 68.
And the 819th place, is that, did you check back where we were last year? I feel like we were right in that same range, like in the 800s last season as well.
I think we finished a little better.
Okay.
Actually, if you give me one moment, I can tell you. I think I still have it here. Yeah, last year we finished on the season. We finished with 52 points, and we had 559. So we went from 774 to 559. We closed same thing, 4-1 at the end. It was just when we pulled closer. We got as close as 368th last year before we kind of swooned and then came back again. But you got to remember, actually, there were, I think last year was maybe 3,800 entries. This year was 4,600. So,
Right.
It's probably a little bit worse than last year, but percentile, we're pretty close.
Sure. Yeah. Top
But
20%.
overall, everybody came down. The winner was 70% last year. The 50% cut line was 64.4. So it seems like everybody didn't have as good a year this year.
Yeah. It was a tough year. Indeed.
Mm-hmm. We'll be back. We'll be back, Circa. This is it. 2023. It's the year. Well, let's jump into the wild card weekend action, and obviously we've got it's the super wild card weekend now. There's 6 games instead of like the old days 4.
Super.
Yeah, exactly, super. Which means you get games on Saturday, 2, 3 on Sunday, and then you have a Monday night game. So I want to go over the injuries first because there's some pretty big ones here that we should talk about before we get into the handicap themselves. The Ravens, we just mentioned, Lamar Jackson hasn't practiced. He's listed as out, but I looked at his thing, so I don't think he's going to all of a sudden be able to play. But more importantly, I don't think Huntley's going to play. It looks like Anthony Brown is going to start this game. So the move in this line went from whatever it was like 9 or what was the original line?
5.5. So
oh wow,
on my card.
Now it's 9.5. So
wow.
But what about Alex Kappa from the Bengals? Like the guard got hurt in this game against the Baltimore. He's listed as out. So it's not like the Bengals are going to be high flying, if they can't run the ball like they normally can. I don't know. I guess we can talk about the handicap right away if you want to. I don't know. I'm screwing this up, actually. I'm just.
Are we going through the injuries, or you want to go game by game?
Yeah, let's just do game by game.
Okay.
I think it makes sense. So like now that we've got that, so you got Lamar out, Anthony Brown in, Kappa's going to be out for the Bengals. I didn't do it in game order. I'm sorry, everybody, but so the Bengals now they're 9.5-point favorites. It opened at 6.5. The total is kind of crashed down to 40.5 in this one. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I laid the points with the Bengals. I missed this line move though. This news must have come out today or yesterday. Presumably, there's some information about Lamar, right?
Mm-hmm. It came out yesterday. I didn't know about Huntley though. So yeah, you laid it with the Bengals at 5.5 or 6.5.
Yeah, I have Bengals minus 5.5. I think Sunday night or early Monday morning when I saw that number. Just thinking, I personally just didn't think that Lamar was going to be able to go. It's evident to me that he is not feeling the respect from the Ravens organization. They haven't paid him his money, and so like, what impetus does he have to go out there and play at poor health? Right. And so, I mean, on top of that, it's a knee injury. So even if Lamar Jackson does somehow come out and play on Sunday, how effective is he going to be running the ball? I don't think very effective. And so for that reason, I think that Bengals have a pretty serious edge in this game. And I think even if it is Anthony Brown, I like the 9.5 number equally as good.
So you wouldn't try to go for the juicy middle there. I mean, there's a pretty big middle there. It's usually an action special.
Yeah, I think it's tough. Middling is a difficult thing, and I'm not so sure that I think the Bengals. I'm sorry, I don't think the Ravens are going to be able to keep this thing that close. So I'm not so sure that I see value on the Ravens even at 9.5 or 10.
Yeah, I'm kind of opposite on you on that one, buddy. I think I did 10 earlier today when I put in the numbers, but I just checked just before the pod. If it gets to 10 or 10.5, I'd go on the Ravens. I think their defense is still pretty good.
Yeah.
And without Kappa, the upside is going to be limited. I think that the Bengals will be happy to get out of this game 17-7 or whatever. I mean, I don't think the Ravens are not going to score at all. So, yeah, clearly they're going to win this game. And I don't know. I guess we should talk if you think there's any difference between the playoffs and the regular season in terms of covers, right? I mean, you just say, hey, I'm forgetting the spread now, I'm going to take the better team, or do numbers really matter to you when you're betting the playoffs?
Well, I mean, before last season, the underdogs in this wild card round had been on an incredible tear. I think last year it was the favorites who bounced back to like a 5-1 clip, if I recall last season. But before that, the underdogs were way ahead of the game. And so I think that in terms of where you're looking now, underdogs is certainly the starting point, but you also now have a little added nuance with the playoffs expanding to these 7 teams where you actually have a better team that's playing on wildcard weekend in both the conferences. And so I think that kind of flips the script a little bit.
Good point.
So, but the AFC is such a interesting animal this year because of the injuries on a number of these teams. And I just don't think that the Baltimore Ravens are suited to move the ball against the Bengals without Lamar or Huntley. I mean, I said it at the top. I was surprised that they scored 16 points last weekend. I would go back to the well and make that same bet this weekend. I don't think that they're going to get to 16. And so for that reason, I like the Bengals.
And they've been covering like crazy. So, okay, well, I'm going to jump back into order. Sorry, Action. I decided to do something on the fly there. You letting me go off the handle. Let's start off with the first game, and that's Saturday, Seattle against San Francisco. It's supposed to be torrential rains or something like that out there in the Bay. San Francisco opened as a 6.5 point favorite, 44 point total. The total is down to 42, and the move has gone all the way up to 10. Is that right? That's a big move. So let's start with the injuries first. Looks like Kenneth Walker, the rookie running back who's had a really good year, did not practice with his ankle. He is probably going to play, but whether he's going to be effective, I'm not sure. And then Eric Armstead for the 49ers did not practice with his foot. I do think they can survive without him, but just noting it. What do you think the reason for the move is? Because the teams are, I'm certainly Walker's not, 3.5 to the spread. So why do you think that was? Just people watched this opener was before they watched Seattle struggle with the Rams?
Well, no, this opener didn't pop up until like right after the end of the Green Bay
Mm-hmm.
and Detroit game on Sunday night. Because
Right.
recall, if Green Bay had won, it would have been Green Bay in this game. So
Mm-hmm.
this was a true opener. In fact, I have a story to tell you because I was so heavily invested in the Lions money line plus 200. It was a good hit. I was in
Nice.
bed thinking to myself, wow, if the Lions really win this game, it's going to be Seattle going to San Francisco. So as soon as it went final, I'm refreshing my screens, refreshing, and I see FanDuel 6.5. And I hammered it right away
Oh yeah.
because I knew that this number was going to go up. Because I'll answer the question for you. San Francisco has been dismantling opponents lately. They
Mm-hmm.
have won by double digits now, going back. I think I count 6 games in a row against the spread, and one of those was a Thursday night game on the road at Seattle. And so I think that the San Francisco 49ers team has been scoring at a clip that is not we have not seen in this team when Jimmy G was the quarterback. They
Right.
put up 38, 37, 37, 21, 35, and 33 points in their last 6 outings. And I think for that reason, they're laying a bigger number here. And I also like the over for that reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even with the rain, that doesn't
Yeah.
stop you. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
when it went to 42, I could see the over. I have to agree with you. I mean, 10, I don't know if it's still 10 in the market or 9.5, but San Francisco is a better football team. They're the best team in my playoff index. They're the best team of all the teams left, in my view. Uh, 10 points is just a lot. I mean, this is a teaser game for me. I'm going to tease this down, and
Yeah.
I'm going to tease the total down. This is an in-game teaser. Go back to the teaser and take the money because I think that's the way it's going to go. But you clearly could probably hit both without doing that. So good for you getting the 6.5. Nice work.
I would recommend if you're going to go the teaser route, look at a 7-point teaser here.
Mm,
So if you can find a 9.5, you can get down to two and a
sure.
half. That would be your best bet. But even 10 down to 3, you typically most domestic books would have to pay a minus 140 juice to go to that 7-point teaser. But getting the field goal on your side is important.
Yeah, for sure. So the second game on Saturday is the Chargers Jacksonville game. This is probably, I'm going to say it's the best game of the weekend. I think it'll be the most interesting game because teams are both mostly healthy. We'll talk about that in a minute. The Chargers open as a 1.5 point favorite on the road, 46.5 point total. Total's up to 47.5, and it's up to 2.5 for the Chargers. That line keeps moving their direction. I'm just listing off the injuries. For the Jags, they lost Cam Robinson a couple weeks ago. He's on IR with his knee. Brandon Sheriff, the guard, was limited in practice with his abdomen. He'll probably play. For the Chargers, they never did get Rashawn Slater back. I had heard that he might come back, but he's still on IR from what I can see. And Mike Williams did not practice with his back. So, action, this is a fishy line, buddy. I don't quite understand it. I know I've heard a lot of stuff on Beeson this week, so we'll go over it. But on paper, Jacksonville's a better team in my view. I don't understand it. They're also at home. We know how they are at home with the Jags. I know the Chargers are getting better and getting healthier, and Herbert's a better quarterback, but I don't understand the line move either. I don't understand why there's so much love for the Chargers right now.
I agree. I make this game 0, pick 'em on a neutral. And I think if you give any ounce of home field advantage to Jacksonville, which you have to, I mean, quite frankly, that home crowd last Saturday night against the Titans was raucous. And I think that was an edge for the Jaguars. And so catching 2.5 points here in a game that should be like Jacksonville minus 1.5, I think is extremely good value.
Yeah.
Um, we've seen from Trevor Lawrence and the offense a little bit more composure this season, especially down the stretch. And I think that is going to go a long way as we get into the playoffs here. They also have a head coach in Doug Peterson that has a tremendous playoff pedigree, which the other side has zero playoff pedigree. And so I think that's another huge important factor in this handicap as well.
I agree with you. I think the coach is the biggest handicap. I don't think Staley's a very good coach. He's, kind of does all that. Last year was all the fourth down guy. He doesn't seem to have control, So, and this team traditionally, the Chargers, they played better lately. They have played better lately, but they're not really covering numbers. So, to be a road favorite, I mean, they have played better, and I think they have really good talent on their team. But the Jags defense isn't that bad. I know that what I hear on VSiN is that the Jags secondary is bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you can get the ball out, because they have a pretty good pass rush, but if you can get the ball out, these receivers are going to do damage. But without Williams out there, I mean, Allen's not going to break big plays. Carter's okay. They've got some players, but I don't think you're going to run on this team. Eckler's, has had a better second half of the season. But so anyway, I'm with you, buddy. I'm plus 2.5. This is my pick of the weekend.
Yeah, I also love the Jaguars in a teaser too. If you're looking for a team to pair them up with, the Niners.
Yeah.
There's a couple other teaser legs out there this week too, but Jaguars at 2.5 up to 8.5 or 9.5 in some cases is good.
There you go. Okay, so let's move to Sunday, although we already went for the night game. Miami against Buffalo. This game opened as 10.5 for Buffalo at home, 44.5 point total. Now that I guess Tua got ruled out, and now it's Skylar Thompson who's officially going to start. It's skyrocketed to 13-point favorite for Buffalo, and then the total went down to 43.5. So that was the main one. The only ones I wanted to note, I did note the Bills secondary is kind of banged up in general. You've got Micah Hyde is on IR with his neck. Jordan Poyer is limited practice with his. Is he also a neck? Maybe it's a knee. I usually put that right, but maybe. But so you've got the safeties are in hurting for the Bills, but I don't see how Miami wins this game. There's no path in my mind. This would be like the biggest upset of the recent history. But can they cover that 13 against the Bills?
No, I don't think so. Actually, I don't see Jordan Poyer on. I'm looking on team rankings. I don't see him on the injury report. That's interesting. Definitely should be on there. And you forgot to mention Damar Hamlin too. The third-string safety is clearly not going to play either. So definitely a little bit banged up, but I don't think it's going to matter against Skylar Thompson and company. I was kind of surprised that there's been no Teddy discussion. I did see the same report that you did, that they're expecting Skylar Thompson to be their quarterback on Sunday, and that's not going to go well against the league's #1 defense.
Well, he's a rookie. He hasn't even done well when he's in there. So, okay, lay the wood. I can see that. Again, I wouldn't mind teasing this one too with something, because just to be safe, but I don't know. I see a throttling here in the opening on Sunday, but any thought on the total? You think it'd be under then, the total?
I would definitely have a lean to the under. I just don't see the Dolphins contributing too much. Recall last season, though, in the same spot against another divisional opponent in the Patriots, I think the Buffalo Bills put up like 50 points in their own right. So they're certainly capable of that. I wouldn't count on it or expect it, because I think that if they're being smart about this, they're going to probably take their foot off the gas in the second half. I'm sure there's less impetus to run it up on the Dolphins like it was on the Patriots last season. But
right.
That would give me a little pause on the total. That's all. But I have no problem with laying the points with Buffalo, even at 13 right now.
Yeah, me neither. Okay, I think this will be an interesting game on Sunday, the 3:30 game. So you've got the Giants playing at Minnesota, another rematch. Minnesota opened as a 3-point favorite at home, 48-point total. I don't know if the total moved. I just put that in there. And it's still staying steady at 3 for Minnesota. So these are this is a funny matchup, because both these teams, I think, are pretty pretender-ish, or they're paper top tiger-ish. I haven't made that paper tiger yet. I'm sorry, actually, I've been busy. But I mean, I gotta side with the Giants. +3. Minnesota is the smoke and mirror team, right? They're 13-4. They won 8 games, 8 one-score games, 8-0, I think, in those games. This was one of them. They kicked like a 60-yard field goal to beat the Giants. And I think they have the coaching advantage too. Dable's going to have something planned for Justin Jefferson. And I heard some stat today that between Jefferson and Hawkinson, they both got 16 targets and only 1 pass breakup amongst those 32 attempts. So they're going to probably improve there. Plus, the Giants, sorry, I skipped the injuries. One of the things for the Giants, they have Adoree Jackson, the cornerback. He's limited practice today, but I heard he's coming back. And Garrett Bradbury is limited practice for the Vikings, the center. So that's going to be an impact on this game.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime you lose a center in football, it's definitely going to be impactful. And also, reminder that this is not in Kirk Cousins' preferred window.
That's right.
4:40 start time is going to throw him off his little mechanical clock. I think I know that I bet on the Giants in the first game, but that was a different number, 4.5 in the first one in Minnesota. Just that was probably 4 weeks ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, week 16.
Yep.
And now we're talking 3, so it changes the game a little bit. I definitely am still interested in going against Minnesota as much as I can, but it's probably something that I'm going to wait on until kickoff. I've got an alert set on my phone for 3.5. If that comes up, I'm definitely going to hit it right away. This is one of those games where there's no real rush to bet on the underdog here. You've got some asymmetric risk. No reason to not wait for that 3.5.
Right. Okay, so it might be a stay away for you then until it's better.
I think so. In terms of the total, I think you saw, both of these teams were over teams throughout the year, predictably because the Vikings defense is so bad. But in the first game, I think it took like 20 plus points late in the fourth quarter to push it over, including the game-winning field goal. And so I think we've already seen these two teams battle a little bit on getting on the scoreboard. And so I think there's some sneaky value on the under at 48.5.
Interesting. Okay. I know people are probably all over the over given what happened last time in the Dome. Okay, so we already went over the Baltimore-Cincinnati game. Let's go over the Monday night game. This is Dallas against Tampa. Tampa's hosting at worst record. So Dallas opened as a 3.5-point favorite. I listed that incorrectly. And then the total is 44.5 on the opener. It's down to 2.5 now for Dallas and 45.5. So I'm going to lay out my handicap, and you'll probably disagree with me, but
okay.
Tampa has sucked all season, dude. I can't do it. Tom Brady, give me a fucking break. Sorry, America. I didn't mean to swear. Dallas has sucked down the stretch. There's no question. We hate McCarthy. He's a terrible coach. Do I want them to lose by 30 and have him fired and Sean Payton go there and make that team better? Yes. But I just can't see Dallas is going to score on this team. I know that Tampa's defense is pretty salty, but I just can't do it, man. I understand why the move went from 3.5 to 2.5, but I don't think I can back this Buccaneers team. And I'm sure everybody in America is going to be on Tom Brady. Well, that's probably not true because Dallas is a public team, but I think everybody, the sharps, love Tampa plus 2.5 because they're at home, and Tom Brady, not for me. I'm on Dallas minus 2.5.
Interesting. I like the handicap. Definitely got a little bit extra value out of this now that we've gone from 3.5 down to 2.5. I kind of missed this, just crushed through the 3. It looks like there's 0 3s left available in the market. So there's definitely money coming on one side here. It's tough for me because it just seems like, I know it seems like is the wrong way to put it, but Tampa Bay has pulled games out of their rear end on numerous occasions late this season. And the way that Dallas has been fading down the stretch gives me personally some pause on wanting to back them. The way the defense has been playing lately is troublesome. And you could argue the same about the way the Tampa Bay offense has been playing lately. So for me, that matchup, that Dallas defense versus the Tampa offense, is going to be super intriguing and probably going to decide the outcome of this game. I'm personally going to stay away from it, though. I just can't see an edge one way or another. I am kind of intrigued by the total, though. You mentioned that you thought Dallas would score a lot. That's been reflective in the move on the total from 44.5 out to 46 right now.
Right. I didn't really put the injuries on this one, probably should have. But I mean, I see some limited practice for Tyron Smith and DeMarcus Lawrence. I think all those guys play. For
Mm-hmm.
Tampa, let's see. There's nothing really of note.
Vita Vea, the big run
He's
stopper, is
limited.
questionable defensive
Yeah,
lineman.
he's limited. They've got these other guys I don't know. So but some guards. They must be on the team, limited practice. John Molchin and Nick Leverett. So, you're right. They pulled some stuff out of their butts all season. Um, it's Tom Brady. We all know what he can do. He's got good skilled players, but I don't know. I just think that Dallas is just better. Even I don't think I shouldn't say this. Even McCarthy can't screw this up. He can't. But I think they're going to get their comeuppance next week if they go to Philly or
Yeah.
somehow end up going to San Francisco. Something happens. But yeah, I just
I'm glad you
anyway.
brought up the coaching, though, because out of all the games that or the teams in the NFC that the Cowboys could go up against, Todd Bowles is not one that strikes any fear into you in terms of a coaching matchup.
Right,
So
right,
this kind of mitigates any edge that the opponent might have there.
right. The biggest thing for Dallas is Dak Prescott. He hasn't played well.
Yeah.
He's got I think he has 15 interceptions on the season. He didn't even play a full season. I think he's got 7 straight games of interception or something like that. I heard he's just turning the ball over, and they got to figure out a way to not do that. Now, granted, you're not going to just line up and run against this Tampa team, and that's what Dallas really wants to do. But I think if they can get Dak easier throws, and it's really just to see if Tampa's going to bring the heat, blitz him and see if we can get him to make some mistakes. But I don't know. I just so it's an interesting game. I'm glad they put this one on Monday. I think probably the better game would have been the Jags Chargers, but this is more intriguing, more name value. So I don't understand why they put it on Monday night.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, well, a couple programming notes. Next week, both Action and I are traveling a bit. Somebody's going to be off the grid, which I appreciate. That's good for you. Actually, I wish that was me. I'll be down in Tampa area playing some volleyball and drinking with my friends. So we're going to not tape. It's the first time in a while that we do that mid-season.
Yeah.
But sorry, legions of fans, you'll have to wait until championship week to hear our leans. I will still write an article though, so you can read on Wegs Pool. And Action's going to be sunning himself in Hawaii, right?
Yeah, we're heading to Kauai tomorrow morning for a big honeymoon. So very excited for that. Gonna take some time away from work and others and just disconnect, do a lot of hiking, and hopefully lose some cell service.
Perfect. And then a bigger announcement, I guess, we've officially booked the Vegas trip. The four best friends are going back again to Stadium Swim so we'll be three of us will fly out on March 15th, which is Wednesday. I guess I'll probably come in too late for the first 4 games, but then on Thursday, the 16th, we'll be at Stadium Swim. We've already booked some VIP chairs. We're looking for other people to meet up with us and everything. And then we're going to stay there till you and I are leaving Saturday night, the 18th, but some people will be there Sunday. So feel free to join us out there. It should be a lot of fun. There was talk, I'm going to put her on blast because she listens once in a while, but she was a little drunk, and Art was trying to get Ridgeway to show up this year.
Nice.
And one of my friends who plays volleyball, Nicole, who's never been to Vegas, I'm like, you guys can come, but here's the itinerary. My buddy Aaron might come. These guys talk all the time, but we know the 4 people that will be there, us. But I'm excited that we're going to do it again, despite the skyrocketing hotel prices.
Yeah, we'll be there with thousands of our construction industry related friends as well.
That's right. They really planned that one well. So I'm actually missing an industry conference here in Chicago, the 15th, 16th. I'm like,
nice.
March Madness, baby. What can you do? So, all right, Action. We'll have a great trip to Hawaii. We'll catch up with everybody in 2 weeks. Follow me at Side Action. Follow me at wegspool.com. Again. Follow me at Wegs School on Twitter and Instagram. You said it.
And follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
And follow us at Side Action Pod on Twitter and Side Action Podcast on Instagram. All right, well, enjoy the Super Wild Card Weekend.